I honestly feel like my world came crashing down around me. Feeling of regret really hurt and broke my heart.
We should be training our mind just as much as we train our body. There's really not enough space from community sport all the way through to elite sport to focus on mindset.
The awareness that we can build for ourselves gives us choices.
Welcome to 4TG. Holly Bailey, welcome to the 4TG podcast.
So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, I have recently completed the Empowered to Lead program, which is hands down the best leadership program I have yet to be a part of. And I cannot wait to share with the guests some of the incredible things that we learn on that. And I'm sure it will help their leadership journey just as much as it has helped mine.
I absolutely loved having you in that program. What a standout you were. I'm so glad you had such a good experience.
It was fabulous. Now, before we get to Holly, the CEO of Play Like a Girl, I'd love to know a little bit more about Holly, the child, and how sport shaped your life, led to you being an athlete turned advocate, and how every lesson that you've learned in sport shows up in your day-to-day life as a CEO.
All right. So I am a Melbourne girl, always lived in Melbourne, grew up in Melbourne, predominantly raised by my dad and brother, so in a bit of a boys' world. Mm-hmm. A typical weekend for us growing up would be following dad to cricket or going to watch the Bombers on the weekend. Sport has been very much a part of my family life and my upbringing for as long as I can remember. Had a ball in hand, trying to get dad to come out and catch the ball with me or shoot hoops. That would be a normal week or weekend. For me personally, playing netball, my first love. That was my first sporting love. A friend of mine at primary school had started playing and said, come on down with me. And I did. And from the second I stepped on that court, I just loved it. I felt free and fun and just had the opportunity to compete. Up until that point, I'd only competed with my brother, who's quite a bit older than me, but I wanted to show him what girls can really do.
I'm sure you still gave it to him.
That's right. The boys in my family taught me to be very competitive. There were some things that were amazing about that, some things to unlearn. They were very much like, use the elbows, take anyone out at all costs, right?
They can't run without legs.
Hardcore competitive family. And that shows up everywhere, definitely in business, in my life, in every way, shape or form. So netball was the first love. And yeah, through that, I just took on as many different teams and roles within my netball as I could. And that was something that I played and I still play now. That was, again, part of our weekends. I'd play in the morning. I'd then go and play somewhere in the afternoon. I'd be playing in the squad team and going on tournaments. And so that was very much a part of our family and our life for, as long as I can remember.
Brilliant. And obviously you created Play Like a Girl for a reason. So I guess what was the moment for you when you realised that there's a gap for women in sport, and how has Play Like a Girl helped fill that gap?
Yeah. When I first started Play Like a Girl, it wasn't a gap that I had identified that everyone was experiencing. Really, it was my own. As I said, I've been playing netball for as long as I can remember, but the real moment of when I felt like I was looking for something for myself at this point was I'd been playing for quite a while now. I was probably in my mid-20s, and I thought that I had reached the peak of where I could get to in my sport. I didn't think that I could get to a level higher. This is probably inner dialogue. I was pretty confident on the outside and loved getting out there and absolutely cracking in. But I had an opportunity to go and play at a grade that I sort of thought that I probably didn't have the goods to be able to perform in. And I went along to that game and had a really good game. Mm-hmm. Had a blinder. And the coach came over afterwards and said, "Oh, great game. Where have you been? Yeah. Why are you not playing with us at this level?" And I just thought, probably didn't think I was good enough. Everyone's, a metre taller than me at this point. And he just said, "Well, I just put a girl in the level above this one who's your height. So that isn't true. I don't know where you got that from." And I honestly feel like my world came crashing down around me.
Right.
Because from my family, we are competitive. We put everything into what we do, a hardworking sort of a family. And that's how I approach life. And so to learn that actually the things that I've been saying to myself all of this time, they are not the truth. And that real feeling of regret that I hadn't put myself in that position sooner really hurt and broke my heart. And that was a moment I'll never forget it, because it just washed over me like a wave. And I thought, I don't want this for me, and I don't want this for any other girl who's ambitious and wants to give everything to what she's doing. And so that was a real seed, or a real unlock, I would say, to then go and explore, well, what are the solutions here, or what are the tools? Because the way that I'm thinking and approaching things is inaccurate and not working for me. So it kind of sparked this bit of a personal development journey, I would say. At the time, I just wanted to learn how to think in a way that was more productive for the kind of performance that I wanted to deliver. And I don't know, I just kind of started looking for solutions to the problem that I'd identified. My mindset is not working for me. And so I started kind of asking more questions and reading different books and just being way more curious, because I thought, I'd never thought so much about the way that I think before, if that makes sense. I wanted to really understand why I thought that way. And my revelations around that was like, oh my God, I am the boys. I think in the way that I've been taught to think, and I haven't ever considered what's outside of that. And is there more for me? And is that exactly how I want to approach my sport and life and leadership? So there was a real unraveling after that moment.
I think it's really interesting talking about these self-limiting beliefs, and how we definitely are getting better at talking about mindset within sport, but still not enough. Like, we should be training our mind just as much as we train our body. And doing some research for this episode, I went back through all the coursework books that we did through the Empowered to Lead program. And there was a quote that really stood out to me upon reflection. And then it says, "Our thoughts are the architects of our beliefs, actions, and ultimately our destiny. By cultivating a growth-oriented mindset, we open ourselves up to endless possibilities and potential." That really struck a chord with me. It made me reflect on my own thinking through, going from professional, I was sort of semi-professional in polocrosse, and then I've worked my way up, and now, trying to essentially go up the ranks in football. But there has been so many times where I myself have, to my own detriment, not believed that I could do it. And we talk about it in the course. I think it's the self-limiting beliefs versus empowering beliefs. But you can almost act like the victim, because you can say, I haven't made it because, I didn't have the resources growing up, or I didn't have the skill, all of these types of things. And they're not true. It's ultimately what you're telling yourself, and then it does manifest into your own reality. Have you had similar experiences with that?
Absolutely. And I definitely resonate with what you're saying. And I think through my sort of self-discovery, I didn't know that there were conversations being had or tools or resources out there to address these kinds of things. I just thought, oh, that's the way I think, or that's the way I am. And then going through this kind of self-discovery, going, there are tools and ways that you can work through this if you have the willingness to have a look at what you're doing, thinking, behaving, performing. It really asks for you to consider, how are you approaching this? What's going on internally for you, and is that delivering the kind of a performance that you desire? If no, we're going to have a closer look. And I started this education course that was very much focused on mindset and thinking and really addressing what's going on beneath the surface. And it blew my mind. I never had a conversation with anyone in my context of sport that spoke to me about how important our mindset is. And that is going to dictate everything. The way that we think, what's going on internally, will decide how we approach the next situation. We'll decide whether or not we're willing to put ourselves out there to be a bit uncomfortable. Whatever is going on internally is going to dictate our outcomes and our actions. And that is why in Empowered to Lead, that is the very first module that we start with, because we might have a vision, we might have aspirations, but if internally we're saying, I've got no hope of doing that, or I don't think I'm the person that's going to be able to deliver this, the actions of a person that thinks like that are probably going to be hesitant. They're probably going to look for opportunities to make excuses, or that will be much easier to make excuses. Versus someone who goes, maybe my mindset's not 100% all the time. However, I'm willing to put myself out there. I'm willing to have a go. I'm committed to that vision, and I'll do everything in my power to achieve that. It's a very different approach, and actions will be really different. And it just blows my mind that we don't train this, especially in sport. When I started learning all of these tools and looking for that solution for myself, I thought, why have I never had this conversation in my sport before? We could train on field, on court for hours a week, but if we can't get there and perform under pressure on game day, what is the point?
Exactly.
The mental game is just as important as the physical game, and the fact that we don't train it, or there's not offerings out there that are really well known for women and girls, or for anyone in sport or performance, is wildly baffling to me.
It is. You either have to look at AFL or AFLW. You've got the best kickers in the comp, and they miss a goal from 10, 15 metres out straight in front. Now, that proves that it is a mind game over so many other things. And too often, as you say, coaches were always focusing on the physical side of things, but there's really not enough space from community sport all the way through to elite sport to focus on mindset and the tools. And that's what your course is actually, it's given participants and even myself. And that's what I loved about your course, is that it's not just the theory, you're giving practical tools that you can start using the very next day or the day of.
Absolutely. That self-awareness of going, when I'm at my best, this is how I think, these are the actions that I take, these are the things that I tell myself. Having the awareness around that gives us choice. And when I'm not at my best and when I'm not performing in the way that I desire, whether that's on field or as a leader, and just knowing really well what that looks like, feels like, sounds like, gives us choice and a sense of control. And that's what I really love about it. It may be perceived control. We can't control everything, especially in sport. It's so very unpredictable. But the awareness that we can build for ourselves gives us choices, which I think is a really empowering thing.
Yeah. And you're right. There's so many uncontrollables in sport, but the one thing you control is your thoughts.
That's right. How am I going to respond when I miss that goal, or this thing goes against me, or I get someone kicking, 10 against me, or I've dropped the ball, or whatever it might be? How I respond is the most important thing. It's going to happen. We make mistakes. It is the nature of it. It's how we learn. But the response time of how quickly I can get back to that performance mindset is the absolute gold.
And the one, framework or case study that really stood out to me in that course was the third space. Can you tell us a little bit more about the third space?
Yes, absolutely. So we are such busy people. I don't know if I'm always shocked, right? When we have these amazing women and girls come through our programs, someone will start by saying, I'm coach of my netball team. I'm also on the committee, and I'm also a mum of 3, and I work full time, and I'm looking after the house. I've got 100 different hats that I'm wearing. I'm always just reminded of how much all of us are doing. And so someone like that is showing up to a new environment. Maybe they're coming home from work, or they're arriving at training from a busy day that they've been really stressed in. And it's so easy to just bring all of the stuff that's happened to us into that next environment. And it's not always enabling us to show up at our best, I suppose. So someone might come home from work, they've had a really hard day dealing with people, they come home and then they sort of take that out on kids or family or the people closest to us. And so the third space indicates that there's a period of time in between those two spaces, whether it's coming home from work into the home environment, there is a space in between, and how can we utilize that space in between to just reset ourselves? So in the context of sport, an example of that might be, I finished work really late, I'm running late for training, in the car on the way to training, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, then I get to training, I'm fluffing around or I'm rushing and I don't get to get my ankle tapes, and I get out there and I've got a lead and I'm not doing a very good job. Versus I leave work, I am noticing that the time I've left is later than I'd like to. What can I do in that period of time, which is called the third space? The car is a really good example of that, to reset myself here so that I can show up and lead people really effectively, or I can show up and perform at my best. And being really conscious of those spaces in so many different environments gives us, again, just a little sense of control of what can I do in this space to show up without bringing all the stuff from the day.
Yes.
One of the real important concepts of that is that we don't have more time. It can't be, let's take an hour out of every day to be able to reset ourselves. Sometimes that's just not going to be available to us. We're trying to do so much. So how can we use the spaces in between the things that we're doing just to reset or reconnect with ourselves so we can show up to the best of our ability?
And I guess even at a more micro level, you think on the field you can use that same strategy, right? Like, for example, you've missed a goal. So rest, reset. And that's what I've been telling the girls that we coach, especially if they make a mistake. Because if you then go into your next play with that negative emotion, we're very good at manifesting the wrong way. So if you say, oh, God, I've missed that goal, I'm going to miss the next goal, you're kicking out of fear, it's going to happen. So using that split second to say, okay, rest, what's next?
Absolutely. What we focus on is going to continue to come in. So if we're focused on, I missed the last contest, I'm not going to go into the next one, or that ground ball looks risky, I'm probably not going to take it. Those hesitations really matter. And so that question I really like asking is, where am I? Where am I? And if it can become a habitual thing that you do after you've taken a shot at goal, whether you hit it or you don't, or between contests, where am I? And just go, am I focused on the thing that I really want to happen in this next play, or am I focused on the thing I don't? Is a really good question to ask. Where am I? Am I above the line, which is another sort of concept that we use? That's a really good question to just check in with yourself as constantly as you can.
And then I guess one more framework on the mindset stuff, which would be really beneficial to the listeners, is all about self-talk. And you distinguish it between being motivational and instructional. And I can't remember the stats, but there was a stat in there that's saying motivational self-talk was incredibly more effective with elite athletes than instructional. Can you talk a little bit more to that?
Yeah, and this will be really different depending on the athlete. And we talk about disc profiling, and that will play a role in this. But generally speaking, there is research to say that the motivational type self-talk is more effective, particularly in a sporting context. So, and a motivational type of inner dialogue or instruction or talk will be, I've got this, let's get to the next contest, come on, I'm ready, let's go, and there's a lot of energy behind it. Versus instructional might be, when I get to the next contest, make sure that I'm standing in exactly the right position and that I'm focused on this thing. There's too much. It's too much information in a time like that. So sometimes the motivational type talk or the hype talk in the context of sport, when you've only got a really short period of time, motivational talk tends to be the one that gets you focused and back quickly.
Yeah. So moving on now to leadership styles. So, studies have shown that girls and women genuinely told, sort of more well-respected to be, I guess, more polite and accommodating over expressing exactly what they need, whereas boys and men are more respected in that traditional masculine leadership style of being more demanding, assertive and taking charge. Studies are showing now that the more feminine style of leadership is more beneficial to teams. And I do want to distinguish that feminine and masculine leadership is nothing to do with gender. It's more behavioural. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you think, especially with coaching women and women's sports, how can we lean more into our feminine traits in leadership, and how can that benefit both females and males?
I'll share a story, or I'll share my example of this, or how I think about it, so the listeners can sort of come into the context that I'm thinking about when I share this. So growing up in a boys' world and being immersed in different industries or sports or a career that is typically male dominated, there are traits that I learn and observe and absorb. So that might be really being really results oriented, really going hard for the outcome that I'm trying to deliver on, doing things really quickly, direct. For me, feels like a masculine style of leadership, that I'm just go all the time, really hard out, focused solely on result. That for me feels like what is to be a masculine leader in my version. From a feminine leadership style, for me, that would be I have the ability to slow down a little bit and enjoy what I'm doing along the way. It enables me to be able to communicate a little bit more thoughtfully and take the time to connect with what I'm doing and perhaps the person that's sitting opposite me. For me, a feminine style of leadership is more thoughtful, is more present, is more engaging. That's my example of how I differentiate them. I love both.
Yes.
And the combination of both to me is when I'm at my best, where I can be really results oriented, but I can be thoughtful in my communication. Or from a sporting context, I can be so driven to get the result and absolutely crack into the contest, but then have the ability to just go, hey, where am I at? Am I good? Great. Play on. In the context of leadership, I think if we are always really only solely focused on result and not considering the relationships and the people that we're leading, we are leaving so much on the table. And yes, I think that as women in leadership, or from my experience, sometimes I've felt like I need to be more like the boys and lead like the men that I've seen around me. And what I've learned over the last few years is that's not the best leader that I can be. When I'm using a little bit more humor, or I'm bringing the energy that I bring and that authentic version of Holly to a leadership table, it changes the room. It might break down some of the discomfort or the rigid conversations that are happening, and it can open up opportunities for different dialogue, and that is what I love about having different voices at the table, having women at the table, because there are different energies, different thought processes, different ways of thinking, and I think that authentic leadership is really important.
Yeah.
It's a real practice. I grew up in this kind of masculine environment, and thinking about doing that differently takes conscious thought to go, hey, make sure that you bring all of you to this, because it's actually really beneficial, not just for you, but for the room as well. And I'd love to see women really embrace all of who they are, not just the parts that they think that people want to see. When we get to a table, I want to see all of you. I want to see your authenticity. I want to see how you think, how you perceive things, how you'd approach this if you were in your best version of you as a leader. And that's what I really love to see.
How do you think these feminine and masculine leadership traits can show up better in coaching?
Some of my favorite coaches and leaders, the male or female, are the ones who can utilize both traits really, really well. I'll come back to coaching. I think of people that I have as advisors at Play Like a Girl. I'm talking specifically about men in this instance, who there are two men who are people that I have such a trusted, fantastic relationship with, who they will wear Play Like a Girl jumpers. They are really comfortable in sharing openly, being vulnerable, communicating, connecting. They have this like really beautiful ability to be soft in their leadership. And then they also have the ability to be really firm and direct and drive me and the business forward in a very different way. And they have the ability to do both. And if I think about coaching, one of my favorite coaches, again, this was a male in this instance, we would just have these most amazing conversations about how we wanted the team to move forward. We really connected on a values-driven style of leadership, and we would talk for hours about all of the different ways that we can get the best out of our players. And he also then would stand up and make sure that he was really clear about what direction we're heading. And he would take the players on a journey and direct them in the way that they needed to go. And I loved that. I loved that he could do both. And that to me got so much out of me because I felt like he cared. I felt like he connected. There was a really beautiful, soft connection, but there was also direction and instruction, which I loved. So the combination of both is amazing. And I've seen that again in a netball coach that I had, same thing. She can be really firm and get me to do the things that I need to, but can also be really understanding of what I need in different times. And I just love being able to sway across both styles of leadership.
When you were saying that, it made me reflect on my favourite coach to date was my first AFL coach, Jerry Patron, and he was incredible. He's a big guy, but he's the most soft, beautiful man you will ever meet, and he is always person first. He would care about you as a person, not as an athlete. That would always come second. He would use sprays very sparingly, but when he did, you best believe we were alert, we were paying attention. But the impact that he's had outside of sport on girls' lives is incredible. And he demonstrated a very feminine style of leadership. And I just think that we, as you say, it depends on your team. It depends on the person. But if you are able to be self-aware of the people that you were coaching, whether they respond better to feminine leadership and mix it up and also have those, traditional styles of masculine leadership when needed, I think that will resonate so much better with athletes, and you're really going to get the best out of them as people and not just athletes.
I think so too. And I agree. I think my favourite leaders and coaches have been those that have the ability to do both. I also think that when we talk about feminine leadership, we've had this conversation at Play Like a Girl on many occasions actually, where that acceptance or ability to step into a feminine style of leadership for a woman is also sometimes comes with different layers and different feelings and thoughts about that. Because if I come to you and say, hey Carly, you're such a feminine leader, I really love that about you in the context of sport, that doesn't always sit well for everyone.
It's almost an insult, isn't it?
That's right. And so we sort of talk about that. What are our own biases around what we believe to be feminine? Do we think that's a good thing? And what we believe to be masculine, do we believe that to be a good thing? I just love someone who can be really comfortable in both, male or female. I think that is just the beauty of leadership, when you can be comfortable in both. And I mean, there's a whole conversation to be had around that terminology. There will be people that do not resonate with that at all, but I really do. I really, it just lands well with me.
Yeah. I guess that's a brilliant segue into my next question, which is, what does it mean? We've discussed what it means to lead like a girl. What does it mean to play like a girl?
Oh, isn't that the best? Like, that is the greatest thing. Okay, I'll share an example, which I walked away going, that's how you play like a girl. This is such a random example, but I love golf. I play netball and play golf. They're my current sports. And a good friend of mine, we play every weekend, and we've started to get more and more competitive. So she gets an extra game through the week, and I thought, I need to get an extra game through the week. So I'll go and play 9 holes before work just to make sure that I've got some touch through the week. And so I play by myself so I can get it done quite quickly. And there were 2 guys teeing up to play. And they just said, oh, do you want to play through? I said, yep, absolutely. And I have my Play Like a Girl hoodie on. And they'd already teed off and absolutely shanked them. And then I teed up, and little Holly walks off and tees up, and then just absolutely cracked a drive down the middle of the fairway. And I just walked off, didn't even look back. And I just thought, that's how you play like a girl. And I have my jumper on the back that's got all the branding. I was like, that is exactly the stuff. To me, it just means like you do something so well, you do it with all of your ability. It is powerful, it is strong. I have so many stories around, people think different things about what that phrase means, but to me, that's what it means. And I find it really, really empowering. So from the start, it's always been like, play like a girl, watch me. Absolutely, I do. And this is how you do it.
Yeah.
So, and now what I've learned over these last couple of years, there are thousands of other women who feel that way too, that see it as something that is full of power, full of strength, full of conviction. And that is definitely the message that we share and wear it as an absolute badge of honour.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm probably had a similar upbringing to you. It was very masculine. And I remember, my dads and uncles and all that, yelling at the TV, like, oh, they're playing like girls. And like that was the worst insult you could possibly say. Whereas now it's such a compliment. You're like, well, good on them if they're playing with absolute conviction and strength. And that is an absolute badge of honour. So good on them.
That is the response all the time. I remember being at a lunch not too long ago and someone that I was being introduced to didn't know Play Like a Girl or we hadn't met yet. And the person next to me said, oh, this is Holly. She runs Play Like a Girl. And he goes, oh, John plays like a girl. And I go, geez, he must be good. And the guy just completely washed over. He didn't pick up on what I was saying at all. And he did it. He said it again, something very similar. Like, God, I wish I could play with him. What an absolute legend. And later on, he ended up coming back over to me and said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I had no idea about what that meant. I apologize. He was kind of profusely apologizing. But there are moments like that every day where there is a comment made or a throwaway thing that comes up. And I always think to myself, okay, how am I going to approach this? Because sometimes I can see it coming a mile away and I want to bite and be like, really? Because what you're saying is to do anything like a girl is not a good thing, or to do it in an average way, or that it's not, that they're not doing it with strength. And I just think that is absolute rubbish. Like, we have so much evidence and examples of the opposite. And it is really a daily thing, but I've learned now how to respond in a way that can bring people into a conversation rather than come at them, which I have done in the past, but I choose my responses more wisely now.
Yes. A more considered approach.
Yes.
Great. Yes. Well, I think there's a lot of male athletes who would benefit from playing more like a girl.
Yeah. There are so many examples, I think, particularly in surfing and particularly in golf, where the male athletes have come out and said, God, I really love the way that they go about their sport. I wish I could play more like that. I love those examples.
Yeah.
It's not to do something like a girl is different. It's not worse. And the conversations around women and girls sport being not to the same standard as men's is frustrating and obviously a whole other can of worms that we can get into on another day.
We'll invite you back to get into those cans of worms. Brilliant. Well, I guess, so really play like a girl, you're sort of recreating the narrative of what it means to play like a girl. And I think even the play on the words is that it's so important, the words and language that we use around and just how loaded these words can be. And you showed a perfect example of this in the Play Like a Girl Dove ad. Explain a bit what that ad was sort of trying to display and the impact that it had. Yeah,
this ad has been around for some time now, and we talk about it in the program, where they invite in some small children, boys and girls, and some adults, and ask them in front of camera, can you show me what it means to run like a girl? And the girls get on there and they run. They're so fierce and they're putting everything into it. And then the boys are on camera and they sort of run with their hands up. And it's sort of the old version of being girly. If you can see me on camera, they've got their hands up and it's a bit dainty and they not doing it to the best of their ability and trying really hard, obviously. And then the person behind the camera asks them, why did you do it like that? Or why are you showing the girls like that? And he just said, that's just what I thought they do. And he said, does your sister run like that? And he goes, no. And do you think it's derogatory or do you think it's mean to talk about your sister like that? And he's like, yeah, but it's just my sister, so it doesn't really matter. And then it kind of dawns on them, hang on, I shouldn't really be speaking about girls like this because it's to their detriment, you know. And later there are some other examples where the girls are just so fierce out and it's just such an inaccurate sort of way to speak about girls. And you're right, the language that we use is so important, that because we take that on, you know, if we're constantly hearing that girls aren't as good at this or girls aren't as good as that, or because you're a girl you're not good, you start to think, is that true, or am I? Or maybe those questions arise. And I just think that why would we make choices like that? We're trying to build girls and women up from as early as possible. Let's make sure the language that we use really empowers them in everything that they're doing. Yeah. What really stood out to me was that they had the young girls and then they had teenage girls, and the teenage girls were also carrying on in a way that's stereotypical girly. So it makes me think, what
is the difference between those young girls and those teenage girls? What are they learning? And that sort of comes back to the stat that around 14 or 15 girls are twice as likely to drop out than boys. So I want to talk about now, how can we best support female athletes along their whole journey through their sport, from starting the sport, from, before they start representing different levels, and then if they do make it to the elite stage, and then post-career as well. How can we better do that?
I'm really focused on this at the moment and building out that timeline from a girl who starts playing sport from a kid where she's there to have fun and connect and just love playing, to the woman who is perhaps played sport her whole life and now is in a career where she's a leader, whether that be in her sport or in her community or otherwise. And what are all of the steps along the way where we as Play Like a Girl can nurture her journey? And so starting to think about, what does she need at this age? What does she need at this age? What does she need when this happens? How do we transition all of that now into transferable skills from sport into career? So that timeline becomes really important. And starting to think about, we're going to do some research on it. I wish I had all of the answers, but what I like to think about is the women and girls that have stayed in for a really long time. They have got a set of attributes and characteristics that I think we can really learn from. So like us who have stayed involved in sport or connected, how did we do that? Because I think there's a lot of conversation around the dropout rate and the environments that we create that aren't sufficient to keep girls in at an age where there are lots of things vying for attention. We understand some of those factors to be varying priorities around school, around family, around friends. It might be around confidence levels. It might be around body image, feeling self-conscious around what uniforms are provided for them, or environments that are intimidating that weren't necessarily built for girls. I think we talk about that a lot, or maybe perhaps in my world, I think everyone's talking about it, but I'm talking about it quite a bit. I really want to think about the girls that have stayed in and how did they do that, and how did they get through those moments of they could have maybe stepped away from their sport, but why didn't they? What is a connection piece for them? So I've got a sort of a longer term plan to be able to find out what some of those are and then go back and build programs and teach it at a really early age. And one of the things I think is super important, that when girls are growing up connecting to sport, that we prioritize fun, that we prioritize connection, that we prioritize that it's for everyone and you can do it in any way that you like. That's all it needs to be then, not making it too serious or this person's better or that person's better. I think fun and joy matters so much early on so that they connect with it and that they love it. And then when they're in a position where they're in a teenage situation and there's lots of different things vying for their attention, they know how important that is and they love that as an outlet and they're more likely to stay in. But I just think that we really need to consult the women and the girls and ask, what would make this a better club for you? What would make this a better environment? Sometimes I think the question and the complexity around how do we fix everything is too big.
Yes.
And it's the little things that matter more. If someone came to me and said, how do I make footy a better place for you? I might be able to say, well, when I get here, knowing where the change rooms are would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Or knowing that when I get here, who's the person that I could ask questions for, or who could introduce me to someone. Those things really, really matter. And sometimes I think let's not go so big. Let's just ask, what do you need? What do you want? Not the girls are asking for everything. Just say, what would make this a better experience for you? And you will learn a lot by going direct to the person and asking her, what do you need?
Yeah, even just, again, drawing back to Jerry, that coach from ANU Griffin. So when I showed up, I've never played AFL before. I showed up and he was the first person that came up to me and welcomed himself, said if you need anything. He got me one of the girls to come over and she was like my buddy for the day. At that time, I was also doing pre-season with the rugby team. So I was going to choose between doing rugby or AFL. And funnily, I'm glad I chose AFL. But that could have been the difference between, it could have been a difference between a whole different career for me, for example. So him introducing himself to me first and putting me in touch with the girl, I immediately felt at ease. And it was that small action, which who knows in the long term how much of a difference my life could have had if he didn't do that. So it's incredible.
That is such an important moment. That is life-changing because you could have gone, oh, this really isn't the environment for me, or I don't really feel comfortable here, and so you don't end up coming back.
Yeah.
Your whole trajectory of your life just changed. I think that it's so easy not to do those things, but those little moments of trust building, of making someone feel a little bit more comfortable matter so much in the long run. I remember this is through work, learning. I would go to these networking events when I was maybe in my early 20s and terrified, awful. What am I doing? This is such an, like, what am I doing with my life to be in these rooms? And I would be really, really nervous. And I ended up meeting someone who was a coach, and she helped me to understand why I was getting so nervous. I wanted to be good at it. You know, competitive little Holly's like, I'm not dealing with this. How do I now, knowing that there are solutions out there, I can actually ask people for help? I did. And she sort of helped me to understand that when I go into a new environment, if I go and speak to someone early on, or I have an opportunity to connect with someone early, my whole sense, I just relax. And I feel like everything's okay. Versus if I go into a new environment and I don't connect with anyone in the first 5 minutes, I feel really on the outer, and I feel almost at the exclusion of others, and then it's really hard to get in.
Yes.
And so that worked in that environment from a work and a networking perspective. When I get in there, find someone to connect with immediately, even if it's someone in the line or on the way in, just make a connection of some description so that I can be calm and relax. And then so from a footy perspective or a sport perspective, a new team, going and making sure that someone feels connected when they arrive, or when I arrive, make sure I connect, because I'm going to relax. I'm going to get out there and train better. I'm going to get out there and play better, because I feel like this is an environment for me. And that became such an important lesson. And I always share that with others. When you're going down there, try and connect with someone immediately so you're in and feel part of it, because there's nothing worse than going to a new club and feeling on the outer when, you know, you don't know anyone. That makes it hard to perform. So
yeah. And you do that perfectly well within the Empowered to Lead course, which it's very hard in a virtual environment to connect and, you know, feel like you're part of it. But from the very opening, you were very warm, welcoming. You made everyone go around, share something about them. And there was no sense, well, for me at least, that there was that awkward sort of virtual divide. So that's something that you've obviously carried on to your professional career, and you do now. And it's working very well, because all the women on that course were absolutely fantastic. And they just felt like old friends, which is pretty cool to do virtually. So well done.
That is amazing. I love to hear that. And I do lots of little things along the way that some people go, why are we doing trivia? Why are we doing women's sports trivia? Or why are we spending time like doing these kind of connection activities at the start? It's all part of the plan. My job in that program is to create a space where people feel really comfortable to be able to share, to ask questions, to be able to disagree, to be able to have really robust conversations. So creating a space where you feel connected, and that I can say something that you might not like, but it's okay and it's safe, and I can trust that this will land and it won't be, you know, taken personally. That's my job. So to take the time really early on to make sure you feel really comfortable, or that I've said hi Kylie when you arrive, or that you feel seen, or that you feel that this is a space for you, matters more. Because when I get to the end of the program, I'm asking you much harder questions, or I want to challenge you on something, or I want to call you in to lead something. If you don't feel safe or comfortable, I'm never going to be able to do that. I have no ability to influence or create a space that you'll share, versus if I've done the work at the start, build a relationship with you and made you feel comfortable, there is way more opportunity that you're going to step in and open yourself up more, which is what we want. That's how we connect, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, this comes back to coaching. If you are vulnerable yourself, your players will be vulnerable with you, and you'll develop such a deeper connection. And I think the traditional masculine leadership is, I'm strong, nothing will affect me. The leaders that say, hey, look, I'm really struggling with this. I've had a bad day. My kid's sick, you know, had a terrible run in traffic and all of that. You can open up and be like, oh, you know, I had the similar experience yesterday. And there's this like unspoken connection, and you feel far more likely to go and be more approachable and be more honest with them. And I feel as though that's how you get the best out of your players, workers, whomever it may be.
Completely. With the family sort of structure that I grew up in, asking for help or letting someone know that I'm not okay, or that I'm not dealing very well with this, or that I don't even know how to do what I'm doing would be the worst thing that you could do. We were guided to never show weakness in any way, shape or form. And if you do, that is the worst nightmare. And so to unlearn that, and to be okay to share things, or to ask for help, or to say, I'm not doing that well here, has been such an important learning. But the contrast is so significant around what used to be important versus now. And yeah, I agree. Creating a space where you're leading with vulnerability, or sharing the truth of who you are, creates an open space for someone else to do the same thing.
Especially for women who if they're even at that elite level in sport, they've still got families, they've still got kids. A lot of them aren't being paid enough, so they have to work. You need that setting where they can be open and vulnerable because they've got a lot of other things going on outside, which, you know, traditionally male athletes probably don't have those external pressures. So being able to be accommodating to all the facets of life that they are experiencing, I think will get the best out of female athletes.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need to go, here's all the stuff I'm dealing with, okay? I'm just not holding it very well.
So don't poke me today.
Yeah, that's right. Here it is. And then you can just get on with it.
Yeah, you feel so much better.
That's right. I think keeping it all bottled up or carrying the world on your shoulders is just such to their detriment. And it is such a common thing that we see, but giving people, that's why I think the program sometimes is so powerful. Yes, there are tools. Yes, there are techniques and things that you can go and do, actionable things. However, the space over a 6-week period to pause, simply focus on yourself, reflect on how things are going for you. That in itself is a gift. And then to connect with other women who understand what you're talking about and why that matters so much, and to be with you through that and be inspirational women on their, in their own right is just such a really special place. And yeah, the gift of time to yourself to focus is something huge in itself.
Yeah, and I guess the gift of community too, which is what, 4TG, yes, what also 4TG does,
Exactly.
but what Play Like a Girl really instills is that, yes, you were around like-minded women and around women who are incredible. Like some of the women we had on the course when I was on it, just the years of experience. Like I think one of the exercises was how many years of sport experience between you. And it was like, it's in the hundreds. Like it's just absolutely wild and what you can learn. And I think, yes, the course itself is absolutely phenomenal, but probably even more powerful is the community that you are now immersed with.
I say that at the start, and I probably say it multiple times. I say we have tools and resources and so much. It will be the people that you meet here that will change your life. And that's why activity that you mentioned is a connection opportunity, because I want them to learn about each other and connect more with each other. And then later on, I mean, there are just so many inspirational women in there, and the more that we can have you come on and share more of that gives people more space to do that themselves. And yeah, it is such an inspirational place. I sometimes sit there, I'm like, I am facilitating this program of these amazing women. When did this happen? This is outstanding. This is my job. I feel very fortunate to be able to do that. And now I feel like it's my job to give them everything they need to be able to do the next thing. So that's a really exciting place to be able to work. Work doesn't feel like the word, but that's what it is.
Well, that is a very, very positive thing if you don't feel like you're working. So that's, you're already winning. So now in terms of Play Like a Girl, where do you see it going? And I guess more broadly, what impact have you already seen it having?
Yeah. Where I see this going now, we've been building a virtual community for the last 4 years. I've had the business for 9 years. This year, it'll be 4 years full time for me. And so over the last couple of years, we've been having these amazing women and girls from all different codes of sport, all different roles within sport, come into this community and start to connect and start to see different possibilities for themselves and what we can do in creating better experiences for women and girls in sport. So I'm not the only one that's passionate about this. Surprise, surprise.
Funnily enough, yeah.
No. And now we've got a space where we can come together and talk about those things. So we've run virtual programs which have enabled us to scale and to reach communities and women in rural and regional communities that would never get access to a network that we're able to provide. And that's been amazing. I was running workshops between footy training and work and home, and it was like that was never going to be able to have the reach and scale that we can have an online program. So it's been amazing for that reason, and that will continue to grow. It's a really good offering. However, we now have women who have been through our programs and come to our virtual events that when we get together in a room, the energy is electric, and they are now connecting and talking. And so they're coming to us and saying, oh, I want to be involved in this. How can I help? How can I be involved? And I probably haven't been great at empowering them to do what they want to do or help yet, because I've been so focused on growing it and building it. So now they want to be out there advocating. They want to be out there creating things and getting together in person to flesh this stuff out. So I think that having an offering where we can bring people together in person is really what they're craving. So for us, we'll be putting a bit more of a focus on what is that? What is the thing? Is it getting together for a coffee? Is it lunch? Is it training? Is it trying different sports? Is it a conference? Who knows? I don't know the answer to this yet. So at the moment we're drawing drawing all of that out to set ourselves up to be able to provide these experiences that people are asking us for. So that's definitely part of the plans. We've got lots of plans. There's lots going on. We've got some amazing corporate partners that are helping us to provide more scholarships to more women and girls in all different areas of sport, and then present them with career opportunities as well. So, I mean, there's a lot. We've got some fantastic ambassadors coming up, but really what I see my core role is now is these women and girls that are really passionate about the thing they want to do in sport. How can Play Like a Girl empower them to do that? So my role will continue to be to lead the organisation, but how can I bring more people in to have the impact that they want to have? And that's how I really see us growing.
In an ideal world, say 10 years down the track, what will Play Like a Girl look like?
Oh, well, we'll be at Brizzy Olympics
Woo!
With some kind of big impact. I don't know what that would be. Maybe we're sponsors. Maybe we've got a activation there that we've got enough money in the bank to be able to do that. So that would mean that we've got even more offerings for people to get involved in. We've got partners that are supporting us. That means our community has had tremendous growth. I just think that if we could have every girl in Australia as a member of ours, or know that something like what we do exists, that's an amazing thing. I just think change in numbers. I think there's many quotes around this, but something in numbers is how we're going to create change. So the more people that can come, be part of what we're doing, empower themselves and then empower their communities, we get to then shift the dial. So ideal world, we've got every girl in the country, when she registers for her sport, also gets a membership to Play Like a Girl. That means she gets access to a nationwide community of women and girls in sport. She gets access to sports psychs, dietitians, leadership training, everything that a girl in sport could possibly need on her journey. We can provide that. Then, Lynchy, we're going out of Australia. We go Play Like a Girl global. We get to New Zealand, we get to the UK, India. There's some of the things that I would really love to see Play Like a Girl expand into.
Wow. Well, I want to be part of that world.
Absolutely. You are
How
in.
exciting.
No problem there.
Oh, all the things to come. Well, in the last episode with Fee Sanford, we spoke about we're constantly thinking what's next and what can we do. But I hope you are sitting with yourself now and just realising what an incredible impact you've had and being extremely proud of that and what a community you've built already. Like, it must just be so exciting waking up and thinking, I started that.
Yeah, I have some moments. I got together with a few of the members yesterday face to face, and just I feel like I can't breathe of excitement because they're doing amazing things in their communities and their sport. Like, they're so impressive. And then I've been able to connect them with other women, and now they're doing even more like that. It's sometimes I just go, this is unbelievable. I'm so excited and pleased to do this.
Yeah, we should be extremely proud of yourself because, yeah, you've done some incredible work and I cannot wait to see all the future things in store. And to watch it go global, that'll be incredible.
I agree.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit now about women's sport. So currently, we're seeing lots of progress in many ways. In other ways, we're seeing a little bit of regression. How do you think we in Australia are currently going compared to the rest of the world in women's sport?
I think we're a little slower off the mark. To say the least.
Yeah.
I think that, we're such a small fish in the sea in terms of sport. I think when I go to these sort of global sport conferences, I think, wow, in the States, for example, there is so much money and huge teams facilitating these sporting programs, which we don't have that here. It's very, very different. So I think that there's a lot of hard work to be done on not a lot of resources.
Yes.
So I do think it's more challenging here in this country, and you don't get paid a lot to work in sport. There are some roles, of course, you do, but for the majority, you're either volunteering or you're earning a small amount of money to work in sport because you love it. So I think that there is always going to be work to be done, especially in the space of women and girls. You're right. Yeah. There's progress, absolutely. There is also regression. I think just the thing that we need to do is remain committed that we're going to get to a place where there is more equality and the resources that we need. Sometimes, especially at the moment, I do feel like we notice the regression and think, there's not enough value in women's sport, or it's not valuable, and it's kind of it's black or white. I just think that we haven't found a way to create enough value yet for this to bring in enough commercial or to get this many eyeballs. There is a way, we just don't know it yet in all of the different sports that we're offering. So I really encourage and ask people to be really open-minded with how we create women's sport as a viewing product, as a commercial product, because it's going to be different how we do that. And it's not that it's not possible, it's just we don't know how to do it yet for for all the codes that we've got.
Yeah. And I think, what Kate McCarthy said in the previous podcast is that it's an investment. And just like any business investment, you don't see return overnight. It's going to be a long-term thing, but the greatest cost is not investing at all, I think, down the road.
Yeah, I say that a lot as well. If I in Play Like a Girl, if I've got a new product to bring to market, my expectation is that I'm going to have to experiment with it and see how to commercialize it. It's not necessarily going to bring in profits right away. We've got to work with what we've got. And I think that really applies here. We've got a new product. AFL is the thing that's coming to mind, or AFLW is what's at the forefront of my mind as I'm saying this, but we've got a new product that we're working with to figure out how to make it commercial and get enough eyeballs and people through the doors. It needs time and it deserves time.
Yeah. Yep, because, there's 90 years difference
It's
between...
new. It's a new product. We haven't figured it out yet. So the yet part becomes really important. And I've sat at some tables recently where we need to keep reminding people we haven't figured it out yet.
Yes, yep. But that's not the be all and end all. There will be a way. We just need to keep investing resources, money towards finding that solution. Yeah. So now on a more positive note, what is lighting you up with women's sport at the moment? Whether that be a team, a movement, an event, an athlete, what is sort of giving you hope for the next generation of women's sport?
I'm really excited at the WNBL. I'm really excited. I have the investment that's coming into that sport. I heard Larry Kesselman talk at a sport conference about his investment and how he sees that program and that product, that he really wants to invest and build it up in the way that it deserves. So I was excited to hear the way that he spoke about it. And then through some different networking circles, I've met some of the women who are working at the WNBL and they excite me. I love the team that they're building. So to see the growth of that is going to be a real privilege, I think. And then, there's so much sport coming up in this country. We've got the Asian Cup, like Matildas will be on stage. We've got India playing Australia early next year here in Melbourne and across the country. There is just endless sporting opportunities. That's when the Oz Open is and AFLW is not too far away. Magic Round, NRLW this weekend. We are spoiled for choice, but the WNBL is probably exciting me the most at the minute.
Brilliant. And for a up-and-coming, aspiring female athlete, obviously we've spoken a lot about there's many gaps that need to be filled, but what sort of words of encouragement would you give to her?
I would say make sure that if you're really passionate about your sport, you start talking about that with people around you because you never know what opportunities open up, whether that's to continue playing your sport, whether it's to be a leader in your sport, whether it's to create better experiences for other girls in your sport. If that's something that you're interested in or you aspire to be part of, go and start speaking to people about that. I think that would be really welcomed and people love to help people who want to do stuff. So that would be one thing. The other thing to consider would be that if you are running into a challenge or you're having a hard time with something, to not think that it's just you. I think sometimes the problem really is that we think we're having these experiences and think they're just our own, but really so many of us run into challenges or think that we're not quite good enough to get there, or, the way that we think is permanent. I just really encourage you to think about, if I'm dealing with something, there is probably a solution. We just need to have a look for it. So, and there are lots of resources out there. Play Like a Girl is one of them. So make sure you find yourself a network or start to open yourself up to looking for solutions for whatever that might be.
Absolutely. And that's, as you said, that's where communities like Play Like a Girl, 4TG come in, because there are so many people out there experiencing the same thing. And it's just so nice to be able to reach out and, people will have the solution out there in that big community. So don't be scared to reach out and ask for help.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, signature segment time. Knowing what you know now and what you have experienced, what would you go back and tell 16-year-old Holly?
Oh, I would go back and tell 16-year-old Holly that, okay, this is an unusual way to do it, but I would say to Holly, the way you think and feel right now is not real. If getting knocked back from a tryout or something, go back, do it again. You might feel a bit embarrassed. You might feel you're not sure. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how you feel about it. Go and do it, because what you want to do, your ambition here or your goal, is to get as far as you can in your sport. That's what will give you joy and fulfillment. So even if it's a knockback and you feel a bit off about it, don't worry about it. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. I just want to encourage little Holly that give everything a go. No matter what, always get out there and just give it a go.
Yeah. That's very...
She just... sometimes I just want to give little Holly a hug.
A hug, yeah.
Because she was out there. You know what? She was working hard. Yeah. She was out there trying to win every game and do everything on her own, and that wasn't, probably working too hard. I just would go, Hol, come here. I'll just give you a little hug and then you can go on your way.
Imagine 16-year-old Holly realising what you have achieved now.
Oh my God.
Could have she ever imagined that?
Little Holly would never have thought that Play Like a Girl was a thing, or that she could be the one that's driving this forward. So that's a really cool thought.
She was too busy tackling her brother.
She was, absolutely, and trying to take everyone out on the netball court.
Oh, that's a beautiful response. And on a more, actionable level, it's pretty overwhelming when we think about women's sport and all of the things that need to be fixed. But for an individual, what is something we can all do today that's small, actionable to help promote women's sport?
2 things come to mind. Go and watch, buy tickets and put your butt on a seat and watch a sport. So if it's something that you like going to watch, go and buy a ticket and get yourself there. And maybe it's a sport that you haven't had too much to do with, but get yourself a ticket. Start being there and seeing it. The other thing I would say is something that I find quite frustrating is people who are having opinions about women's sport that don't really know too much about it. They haven't sort of done the research, but they might see an article and think, oh, I'll take that truth on. I would really encourage people to look for stories where things are going quite well and share the news of that information, because it's really easy to jump on the bandwagon and say, well, this is not making enough money, or this is not as successful as it should be. But there are really good examples as well at the same time of how well things are going and the audiences that we're getting overseas and the commercial that's coming in. So I would really encourage you to do your own research and find the good news stories, not just believe what you see and the commentary that can come. I find that to be quite frustrating. So make sure that you're looking for the good news stories and promoting those as well.
Yeah, because you can always find evidence to back up your opinion,
That's
can't
right.
you?
And you put one story out there and everyone jumps on the bandwagon and goes, see, told you so. At the same time, there are amazing stories of the progress that are happening, and they're the ones that I really want to shine a light on and use as examples. Let's do that.
Yeah, brilliant. And at a broader, more structural level, what levers need to be pulled to promote women's sport, whether that be funding, policy, more resources, whatever it may be? What do you think is the most important element?
I think the most important element for the promotion of women's sport is for corporate Australia to get on board. We definitely need the investment, and grassroots, it's challenging there. And so we need people who are in positions of power and have decision-making authority that say they care about community and community sport to put their money where their mouth is.
Wow, powerful. I like it. All those corporate finance bros out there listening today.
This is for you.
This is for you. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for all the incredible work you're doing through Play Like a Girl and the community that you're building. I know it's having impact because it's impacted me so positively, and, is a big reason why I'm here today doing what I'm doing. So thank you very much. And I think the key takeaway from this episode is that playing like a girl and leading like a girl is not a weakness. It's a strength.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much.